Hello and welcome to Real Relationship Talk, the podcast hosted by yours truly, Teresha Young, relationship master coach, where we have open, non-judgmental, heart-to-heart conversations about love, self-care, dating, and relationships. And for this week's episode, I am being joined by the amazing Mealyann Saing. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Teresha. How are you? I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. I'm doing really well. Thank you very much. And how are you?
I'm really nervous, actually. I'm feeling all the jitters inside of me, but that's going to be really exciting because I know that means that we're going to have a good episode today.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to turn that nervousness, as you said, into excitement because it's going to be a wonderful conversation. I really feel it with it. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share with the world a bit more about who you are and what you do. So, Mealyann is a psychic and spiritual healer using the ancient form of Mai. I had to make sure I said that right. Fortune telling. She has helped thousands of people over the past 10 years find clarity and peace. With her intuitive talents through fortune telling, crystal healing, reiki, and yoga, Mealyann, also known as Milly Moonstone, has created content across all major social platforms to inspire people to take charge of their own spiritual healing and self-care. Oh, so wonderful. Before coming into her purpose and calling, Mealyann has also been crowned Miss Cambodian American 2016 and featured in PBS, TEDx, NASA, and more as a Cambodian ballet performer. She is also a mother, wife, entrepreneur, and podcast host. Wow. Wow. You really have circulated, haven't you, around different
I have,
areas?
oh my gosh, just hearing it all like in that bio, I'm surprised of all the things that I've done, you know?
Yeah, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. So let's delve a bit more into that surprise. And if you could share with us a bit more about the key highlights that led you to coming into your purpose and your calling.
Yeah, so as you mentioned earlier, I started my career out in Cambodian ballet. And so this was a classical dance as was in back then, way back when it was only performed for the king. So now with the modern spin and people trying to preserve the culture, I was able to get trained by like a really elite academy. It was called Khmer Arts Academy. And from then, I did it for like I think 10 years. I think I was 12 when I started ballet, and we performed TEDx, NASA, just all the name brand. I mean, all the big names, and we. I also ventured off on my own, and I did events and festivals, weddings, like the whole shebang, you know. So that performing got me out there in the public eye. I was able to dive deep into my culture. So that was really important for me. I think I never knew this was going to lead me to where I am today, but it started with connecting with my culture on a like physical level. So the Cambodian ballet also kind of represents like a form of yoga in a way, you know?
Okay.
So it's very ancient. And so it was really good for me to learn something like that. And then as I got older and I went away from the ballet performance, I started to get into pageantry. And as you mentioned again, I became Miss Cambodian American. And so that was an amazing experience because not only was I able to fly to Cambodia and like serve as like a pageant queen, and we did an environmental campaign. I went to a bunch of different schools to teach and talk to the children about, you know, what it's like to reduce, reuse, recycle, you know, all those things, and just showcase myself and represent myself as a Cambodian and American person. So that whole thing, I think, just up until winning the pageant and experiencing all those things, like I just felt very connected to my culture and I had no idea why,
Yeah.
right? And it wasn't until like this year where I realized that my gifts as a Cambodian fortune teller is something that I need to serve my purpose and my calling for this next chapter of my life,
Mm.
because this art form, this skill, this talent that I have, it was almost lost during the Khmer Rouge genocide. So during the war, they killed doctors, teachers, professionals, just they killed everybody that they thought would rebel against the newly elected regime, right? And so a lot of psychics and healers, they didn't make it. So the people that I learned from, the sages that I learned from, they survived the war. And I am probably one of the youngest Cambodian fortune tellers there are, preserving this talent or this skill.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. So at what age did you discover that you had this skill and gift?
I think I was 15 or 16 at the time. And I discovered it because my mom used to go see these fortune tellers
Mhm.
when she was going through her own struggles. So I would go along with her. And literally, we're at the mall in the food court. And
Yeah.
this Cambodian lady is like whipping out cards, doing a reading on my mom.
Wow.
It was insane. So, she started to pick up on some things, and then she practiced on me at home. And then she taught me like kind of what everything meant, and then I grasped the basic knowledge, and then I practiced it every day on my friends at school, like at lunchtime, at snack, at
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah, that's how it started.
that is absolutely amazing because yes, you've got the cards, but as you mentioned in your bio, that's the intuitive side that can kick in. So without the cards and the fortune tell, I guess the cards that come along with it, did you have a deeper sense of your intuition at a young age and not really even know and being guided by that?
Right. So I was not like the type of spiritual person that was able to see ghosts or read auras or any of that thing when I was young. And it wasn't until I think I was about 10 or 12 when I got into astrology. So like the zodiac signs, Pisces, Aquarius, whatever, I was
Mm.
into that stuff.
Yeah,
Because it was more accessible online, and it was like
yeah.
introductory to the intuitive side or the spirituality side.
Mm.
And I would get dreams at night, but I didn't think really much of it. But now as I'm getting older, I realized those dreams were actually like glimpses of the future. So it was a form of like fortune telling that I didn't know was
Yeah.
what thing. That was really exciting for me, and that's how I started it. But it wasn't until like I really connected with using the cards as my first form of intuition for me to start practicing that third eye muscle.
Yeah, so powerful there. So, can you explain with us the difference between the Khmer fortune telling? So, what specifically do you do?
Yeah, so I use let me grab them for you. I actually use just like a regular deck of playing cards, right? Because
Oh, okay.
back then, we didn't have like tarot cards, right? We had
Yeah.
just regular cards. And so the way that I was taught, we just use numbers 7 through 10, J, Q, K, and A. I honestly don't know why, but I'm not going to break tradition. So it's
Mhm.
different from another art form called cartomancy, which uses the whole deck. And that is, I think, a Western style. But in Khmer fortune telling, we just use those. And I would like to say, like, every fortune teller that you meet that does this style, they all have the same form. But because there are so many, the cards are only so little, right? You only have a certain amount. There's so many layers to what the reader will see, and you really have to use your intuition to see what the cards are saying.
Yeah.
So for example, like oracle cards or tarot cards, there's
Mhm.
usually a book that has like
Yeah.
a definition or description of what's going on.
Mhm.
But with cards, there's no book, right? You learn from whoever taught you, and then you take your own intuition and you kind of mix it together. So what a card represents to me may be different from what a card might represent for somebody else.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the end, it's really using your intuition to read the messages that spirits are trying to tell you.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I'm sold. I'm absolutely sold, because for those who don't know, I'm also a Reiki healer and a certified angel guard, and I can work with Oracle decks myself. I actually have one, I have a little box here, which is boxed by Radley Valentine. It's Angel Wisdom Tarot cards. And of course, we've got the little cheat book in there as well, which you can go through and you can just have a look at and expand upon. But with the old practice, it absolutely is intuitive. Like, you are reading into it and you're getting that sense and feel for that person, which I think is so, so powerful. Have you encountered any stigma around what you do at all, or any misconceptions?
Oh yeah. So it's so taboo. It's so taboo for like Asian culture generally, or even just, I mean, just being a spiritual person in general. Like, when you're the different one from the crowd, you're always going to be seen as, you know, someone that's crazy or woo woo or whatever. But I'm just a normal person. You know, I'm just a normal person, and I just have this ability that I can read energy, read cards, and tell the future. But
Yeah.
I think what I wanted to say about this was like the Asian culture or the Cambodian culture, because of that war, right? Everything was done in secrecy. So the dancing that I learned, the ballet that I was learning, that was done also in secrecy. You could have died if they knew you were a teacher teaching people ballet, right? So if they knew you were a psychic, they would have killed you back then too. So everything was done in secrecy for the last like maybe 40 years, or since the war. And so now the only time you're ever going to meet a Cambodian fortune teller is in Cambodia, like on the riverside. There's like in the capital, there's like a river, and in front of the river at night, the fortune tellers come out and they sit in front of there. It's such an amazing experience to go out and see that. But in America, you know, because in America, you don't have access to Cambodia like that, right? They don't have FaceTime, they don't have iPhones or whatever. So you're going to have to find different people. And so for me, I realized that like being the only Cambodian modern fortune teller, I need to take it online, right? I need to take it on a global scale so people have access to this type of reading, this type of fortune telling, because it's going to be hard to find. And when I was searching for somebody to read my cards back then, when I was going through stuff, I didn't know where to find them. And reading the basic tarot, like I was trying to find a specific Cambodian fortune teller, couldn't find them. So it is a little taboo, a little crazy for me to put it out there online, out in the public. But I think that it's important as a pioneer to do that.
It takes an incredible amount of vulnerability to show up differently in this world. And you are a mother. So because of your experience of being intuitive, how would you necessarily nurture that in your children as well? Is there anything you're going to watch out for in their behaviors to think, I think they've got a gift too?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot of times where you can watch your children and they may say things, you know, they say random things that make a lot of sense to you, but you were questioning why they would say those things. So I think just like as a mother in general, when your kids are starting to show signs of high intuition or a high sixth sense, you're going to have to take a look at how they're going to react to some things. Like I've had clients where their children have nightmares, right? Nightmares about certain things, and they don't know what to do as parents. But if you first believe them, right? Believe and understand and accept that, okay, my child is going through something like this. And then, you know, you're able to help them more instead of just telling them, oh, you're crazy. Like, don't even about that, like trying to push it away, because that won't help their development. And it might even make them feel like, oh my God, something is wrong with me. You know, so really important as a mother to just believe your children and try to work together to find solutions.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Such a supportive energy to have rather than being dismissive, because you know a lot of how we behave as adults when we're growing up is due to our upbringing. And along with my clients, when I'm talking to them, a lot of them as kids were told to stop talking or to be mute, and they were highly dismissed in that relationship. And that then transitions into their adult relationships too. So I would completely hear what you're saying there at a very early age, is to encourage them and listen to them actually, rather than being so dismissive. And that does take a certain amount of open-mindedness from the parent too, to to be able to have that approach. This is why I love doing episodes like this, in order to help people to expand their minds and to see, you know, what is out there. Because this ancient form of fortune telling, I've never heard of it before, but it's through having a conversation with you, I'm thinking, wow, that would be something I would love to experience from you. So look out for communication from me, Mealyann.
And to do a reading on me too. I would love to hear like what messages you got from me. It's always nice to see it
Oh,
else.
absolutely. I will do that. Woo! I wanted to ask you actually, in terms of the readings that you do, are there common themes? Because you find that people are coming to you for like a twin flame reading or a love reading mostly.
Yeah. People, so if they're not figuring out what to do with their career, they're usually asking about love,
Yeah.
and I think because love is such a big deal in our lives as humans. And if our money situation is going right and it's going
Yeah.
well, like we want to focus on love, right?
Yeah.
Or even our money is, we can't even focus on money and our work, because we're so hung up on like finding love, finding the person, and filling that necessary space. So I do get a lot of soulmate readings, twin flame readings, and all of that.
I can imagine, because rightly, as you said, if it's not our finances or if it's not love, then maybe health. Now, how am I doing? And maybe that's
Yes.
another key one that people approach you for. And do you ever experience times when you receive a message and you just have to deliver it in a way that's going to be as soft as possible? Like, what kind of messages do you receive?
Oh, that's a great question. So actually, I want to tell you this story about this time I read my friend who's a doctor. And this was probably 5 years ago, right? And I was doing this as like a hobby. I was doing it for fun. I wasn't taking it seriously like as a business, right? So I was just reading people for fun. But at this time, my intuition is not as good as it is now, right? And so because of what happened in this situation, it's made me become better. And I was reading my doctor friend, and she was asking if she could have a baby this year. Like, would it be good? It would, everything be okay?
Yeah.
And right away, they told me, no, they don't have a baby. You're going to get a miscarriage, or it's not going to make it. Something really bad is going to happen. And when I heard that message, I was like, oh my God, how am I going to tell her that? Like, I don't want to say that, because what if I'm wrong? What if it's wrong and she has the baby and it's okay? So I didn't trust my intuition back then,
Yeah.
right? And I told her, this is what I said. I said, you shouldn't have a baby this year. You should have a baby next year, because
Okay.
it's going to be healthier next year. But
Okay.
didn't warn her, didn't tell the complete message. And so she had the baby, right? The baby did not make it. I think it was like the 5th month, and she had a miscarriage. And I heard the news, and I was like, oh my God, I should have listened to my intuition. I should have said something to her. That was the first time I got a big message like that, and it turned out to be true. And I was like, okay, from now on, even if it's something really bad, I need to be 100% honest with people.
Yeah, that's so important. That's quite a big learning. That really is, from that experience. A very heartbreaking situation too. Puts you in a
Yeah.
very compromised position to have to deliver a message, because it's so dear to people's hearts too. But how amazing that that had led you to being maybe guided by your intuition, but more of your authentic self, that realness of just no disguise. I'm just going to say it as it is. So talking about like speaking up for yourself, with the process that you had of being Miss Cambodian American 2016 and all of that, did you find that it was difficult to fully express yourself and that you had to be somebody that you weren't?
So when I won Miss Cambodian American, I was myself like 100%. And when I was in front of people, I was 100% myself too. And there was never a time where I was not who I truly am. I'm very confident. I'm a great leader. I love to inspire people. I think my only thing with Miss Cambodian American was my I guess I just want the platform, or the managers I had in charge of me were not putting me in safe spaces. So I had to protect myself a lot of the times. And I felt like I was being used, like I was like a trophy, and they were taking me around and like using me to get deals, using me to get money, using me to whatever. I didn't like, I was doing my best, serving my job and doing, being me.
Yeah.
But on the back of my mind, I'm like, something doesn't feel right. Like, why do I feel like an object? Right. That was kind of, it made me feel icky.
Yeah. I can relate to that. And I think many people, especially women as well, will feel that sense of being an object and being kind of like glorified for the aesthetics, the external appearance. Whereas I know much of our inner beauty is overlooked during that time. So how were you able to nurture your mind and your spirit at that time so that it didn't perhaps weigh you down as much as just being, glorified and as a trophy?
So when this was happening to me in the beginning of the campaign, I told I had a disagreement with my manager about something, right? And I felt like I wasn't being heard. He wasn't listening to me. And so he kind of shut me down. It's a man's world out there, shut me down, which is like, I did all this stuff for you. Any girl would have been lucky to be in your position. So you should just accept it, blah, blah, blah. So I was okay. I should not fight with him anymore or else I'm going to go home and I want to experience this. But how I need to like hold my tongue a little bit, like just go along with it, smile and wave. Just, if I feel something is going wrong, I need to look out for myself. So that's kind of how I adjusted the situation. But then towards the end of the campaign, like maybe 2 months in, it started to get worse and worse and worse. And I couldn't bite my tongue anymore. It was like the people around me were not respecting me in a way that I would have liked them to. I mean, nobody really touched me or did any of the crazy things to me because I protected myself. I put up those walls. But if I just blindly listened to my managers, I probably would have gotten to bigger situations and awful situations for just blindly listening. So at the end of it, I couldn't hold my tongue anymore. And I just sent them like a huge text, and I was just like, I don't like this. Like, this is what's wrong, X, Y, and Z. And that didn't go well. They were very upset that I was not able to bite my tongue and just deal with whatever was going on. But I just didn't feel like respected, and I didn't feel like this was worth it. So after I served my term and did the important things, I booked a ticket and I went back home to the USA.
Yeah. So that's a beautiful example of standing around and speaking up in a situation that so many people can just go along with it and not have the courage and boldness to actually speak up. Although, yes, it was kind of dismissed, and you should be extremely grateful for and privileged to be in that position, because loads of women out there and girls would be dying for that position. You still were able to stand in your power and own that, which I think is really important when it comes to being our authentic self and having that confidence to speak up. So just kind of like circling back round to you now being in your purpose and your calling. If anybody wanted to reach out to you and they were kind of like deliberating whether to have a reading or not, how would you encourage them? There might be so many people listening to this saying, so what's the real benefit of having a reading? What am I going to get out of it?
Well, usually I like to say that for the people that are scared, usually a lot of people are know their future. I want to let them know that like the future can always change. It always just depends on your free will, your decisions, what you do now. I mean, when I do my readings, I let them know that like on on the way it's going right now, the way you're living your life right now, this is going to be what happens, right? But you can make a choice, you can make a change, you can tweak certain things, and then it can go a completely different way, right? Some things are like supposed to happen, right?
Yeah.
If you're meant to get sick, you're supposed to get sick for some reason, it's going to happen. If you're like, it's supposed to get divorced, it's supposed to happen, right?
Yeah.
But there are things that we can prevent or we can watch out for during the readings that will reveal itself, because a prepared person is always a better person in the
Oh
end.
yes. Oh
And you
yes.
future, except for, you know, like I said, let's say, like, let me give you an example. If you're supposed to get thyroid issues, so usually thyroid issues happen because your throat chakra is blocked, and it means that you aren't able to speak up for yourself, you're not able to speak your truth, speak your mind, you don't feel validated. And so let's say you're supposed to have thyroid and that comes up in your reading. When we do that, we can see how can we heal your thyroid, how can we prevent it from happening again, what are ways that we can overcome the issue. So those are it's to reading. We can always see what's going on and then how we can work around it.
Oh, I absolutely love that share. So gorgeous. Because with my spiritual background as well, whenever I have some form of ailment or a family or friend, for example, a sore throat, I would look a bit more into that to say, okay, on the outside, I've got a sore throat, but what does that really mean on a deeper level? Where am I not speaking up? Where am I not fully expressing myself? Or if I've got back pain, I'm like, oh, okay. So where is that kind of showing up in my root chakra, for example? Well, how am I not being grounded? You know, where am I being stifled? So I do look a bit more into it. And funny enough, when I get to that root cause, the ailment starts to subside. It really, for me, I believe it. I absolutely do believe that you can go deeper, and the whole mind, body, spirit connection is so powerful. And this is what I love that you do, Mealyann, because also you help people with their self-care. And I'm curious, in terms of your own self-care, what do you do to preserve that?
Oh man, this was a huge like light bulb moment for me, because when I am in a twin flame relationship. So when we were towards the end of our cycle, when we were doing the separation phase,
Yeah.
um that that was a lot of chaos, right? So we experienced chaos, we had to separate. And because of the separation from my twin flame, I had to learn who I am again. Like, who is Mealyann, who's my
Yeah.
authentic. And that was when my self-care journey really, really started. And so I focus on these areas: the mind, body, spirit, and my finances. If
Okay.
four are balanced, then I feel like you can have like a connection to your higher self when these four things are balanced, and you can have more peace in your life without
Wow.
having to worry about everything.
That's so powerful. And I like the fact how you've narrowed it down to just four key areas as well, because some people can go and have 10 things, but it just actually moves you away from the focus that you need for those areas, which is amazing. So I'm really curious now to explore more about your twin flame.
Yeah,
Now that we've
this is
moved,
a podcast, so we should
yeah,
talk.
yeah, so I really want to delve more into that because you've spoken about the separation, and I'm aware of what a twin flame journey might be. But for those listeners who aren't aware of what a twin flame is, would you be able to share and just give them some insight as to what that means?
Yeah, for sure. So, in your life, you have either a soulmate connection, a twin flame connection, or sometimes you don't even have soul contracts at all, right? So, if you have a soulmate connection, that just means that you wrote a contract with somebody else up in the wherever you were from in the other realm, and
Yeah.
you said that Earth, we're going to meet, we're going to go through these experiences, and then when it's done, it's done. So that is the soulmate connection. It doesn't have to be toxic, it doesn't have to be crazy, it doesn't even have to be a relationship, it could be a friendship, right?
Yeah.
Twin flame relationship, in modern spirituality, the definition is your souls are actually one soul that is split into two, and so you are mirroring each other.
Mm.
And you guys are pointing out flaws in each other, and it's up to you to take the flaws that are being pointed out and heal them. So not a lot of people have twin flame relationships,
Yeah.
and it's not easy to be in a twin flame
No.
relationship. So yeah, if you have one, I think we should talk about like what are the signs, right? Like
Oh,
how do
absolutely. Because at one time I thought I was in a twin flame connection, but really it was a karmic
you
connection afterwards. And I learned so many lessons from that experience. But at the time, I actually thought it was twin flame, but had a rude awakening. So yeah, would you share?
Yeah, it is really difficult to navigate all the different ways of because there's so many different ways you can be in a relationship, right? Like you could have karmic relationships, like you said, and sometimes I don't even know the difference. Like when somebody comes to me and they're doing a reading, I can't tell if it's twin flame or soulmate or karmic because
Yeah.
it's all similar,
Yeah.
right? But I think when you are in a twin flame relationship, there are some things that you go through, like experiences that you go through together. So the first stage is always like you're yearning, right? And my husband and I, before we met, we were yearning for the other person. I remember crying in the mirror one time when I got home from a rave, actually. So I
Yeah.
was a part and I was dating, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just using guys, like I'm just playing myself, like I don't want to do this anymore. So I was like crying to the universe. I was like, God help me, like mom help me,
Yeah.
universe help me, like I just want to find the one. And little did I know, my husband was actually like he was in Cambodia at the time too, and I was in America, but he was in Cambodia at the time, and he was like I was calling his mom too, and he's like, Mom, I don't know why I'm in Cambodia for. He's from Atlanta originally. He's like, why am I in Cambodia? Like, what's the purpose of me being here? I hate my life. Like, when am I going to meet my person? And then a month or two later, I flew to Cambodia to do Miss Cambodian American, and we
Yeah.
met. So
Aligned, so aligned, which
so
is
aligned.
so that yearning stage, for example, many people might feel that, or even a yearning. So when you say that's a remote yearning, so it's not necessarily you're with that person and you're yearning for them because you miss them. This is like a remote, energetic yearning that you feel.
Yeah, your energy will reach each other before you physically reach each other,
Oh,
right? That's
yeah,
how it works. Usually when you're in a twin flame relationship, before you meet, your energies have already like connected. The future has already played out, right?
mm,
And you're just, I guess, like spirit form or energy form, like everything already happened, and so
yeah,
it's waiting for us to catch up. And
mm,
the next phase is the meeting phase and the honeymoon phase. So
okay,
when my husband and I met, we met in Cambodia, and it was so fun. It was like it was definitely, we had honeymoon stage for like probably 6 months, right? And we spent like a month out there together in our homeland. It was so magical. It was like
yeah,
it was just so beautiful, and we could not keep our hands off of each other. It's like very magnetic, and we wanted to be together like every single day, every hour of the day.
mm,
So that is also how you would know. It's like if you do know a couple, like any couple that's literally there together all the time, like they're
yeah,
together all the time.
yeah.
um that's usually a sign of a twin flame relationship too. Whew, mouthful.
No, I was going to say that's amazing. I'm just thinking back, and I'll keep saying okay and trying to differentiate my experiences because a lot of people they do go through the honeymoon stage when they first meet somebody as well.
Yes,
And
yes.
your one, for example, that's 6 months. That's quite a long when you just wanted to be with each other and you were just, in each other's pockets, but enjoying the experience. And I think that's so key. Something you also spoke about is how challenging a twin flame connection can be. So,
Right.
would you be open to share some of the challenges that you've experienced with your husband?
So that's actually the next phase of the twin flame cycle. After the honeymoon phase, you get challenged, tested, and there's a chase. So for us, this lasted about 3 years for us. Yeah, it would, and I'm telling you, a twin flame relationship can be very toxic. And the reason why is you and the other person have your own demons that you're fighting inside of you that you don't even know exist yet. So when you're in the relationship and you're pointing out the demons in each other, your ego self is like, I'm not that way. Like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. It's because you're that way.
Yeah.
And so you don't realize that the other person is actually saying the truth. You think that person is crazy and you don't want to change yourself.
Mm.
So for us, I want to give you the example of like for me, my husband pointed out to me, being a Pisces, I am very into victim and
Woo! Fellow Pisces. I'm a Pisces
yeah.
too.
Oh, so yeah, Pisces, we are very like we just have like a victim mentality, you know,
Yeah.
we very self-sacrificing, and we play into the victim, but we also have escapism. So those were the things that I struggled with in this relationship. And for him, my husband is a Virgo. Virgos are just naturally very judgmental, very perfection, and just like to control everything, right?
Mm,
So if you can imagine how that relationship would play out already, and we're pointing at each other, and I'm saying, you're too controlling. I don't want to do this and that. You're making me do this. And he's like, you're too crazy. You need to stop doing that. Stop blaming me for everything.
yeah.
So it forth, back and forth. And during this time, we also had kids. We got married. We moved
Yeah.
across the country, had businesses. And it was definitely a struggle, because we were trying to heal those parts in ourselves, because we were forcing each other to get better,
Mm,
but it's not going to work until you choose on your own to heal those parts of yourself. Like I had to make the choice to heal that victim mentality and that
yeah.
escape, and he had to choose to heal, like, okay, I'm not going to be so controlling anymore. I'm going to let my wife do whatever she wants to do.
Yeah.
It took us to really accept each other as we are, and have the other person work on it themselves, instead of forcing them and expecting them to be this certain way.
Yeah. I so hear that. We can learn from that victim archetype, though. There's so much learning, so much growth from being in that victim archetype, because as your husband was pointing things out about yourself and behaviors, it gives us an opportunity to learn and to heal, just as you said there. Now, just because there is a twin flame journey, for example, and you've gone through beautifully and you've said what the stages are, it doesn't mean that necessarily you have to just accept it to say, oh, we're going through a challenge, so we're not going to do anything about it. So, no, what kind of efforts did you put in? Because you mentioned the separation too. So, what kind of efforts did you put in to know we're going through a challenge right now, but we're not going to be victim to it?
Yeah.
What did you do?
So I want to take this time to like really tell everyone that it's not okay to be in an abusive relationship. So if you know that your significant other is like physically abusing you, emotionally abusing you, like it's not okay. Like
Yeah.
if that's your twin flame or not, like that's not okay for them to do that to you. It's not okay for you to do that to them. So at that point, you really either need to seek outside help or counseling or just something
Mm,
else, because that's not something that you can take on your own, right? So for example, we had this separation because I just felt like I had postpartum at this time too. I just had my second child, and I felt very depressed, and
yeah.
I felt like I didn't know who I was anymore, because motherhood does that to you. So I felt like I was blaming him. I was saying like it's all his fault that my life is this way. It's all his fault that this is that and that. So we made the decision to separate, because I wanted to do things on my own. I wanted to become like a woman again, become
Yeah.
myself. And so we had to separate. I had to live my life for, at least this was only a couple of months, but I had to live my life knowing that I don't have to depend on my husband for
Yeah.
X, Y. I can do it all myself. And it's like, I don't need my husband. I don't need to be in a relationship. I don't need this. I want this.
Yeah.
So when pick myself up and just get myself back together, we were able to be in a relationship again, but this time it was so much better, because that separation for him, he also needed to understand that like I want to become my own person. I want to step into who I believe I should be, and he had to let me do that. So we definitely needed that. And I can see where a lot of the times people are not able to separate, people can't do that. So when your relationship gets really difficult, and sometimes it's the last straw, you
Yeah.
need to, even if you feel like you might not be together again, you need to take that risk, because it's more your health and your self-care, your mental health, your physical health, it's more important for you to take care of yourself and love yourself first, and then you can love whoever it is you're with.
That's such a key learning there. And it can be difficult to make a change. It can be difficult to sit back and think, okay, separate or not separate, especially if there's children involved too. It can be one of the most difficult decisions to have to make. And equally, what you said there about your overall well-being, that is paramount importance. So it's focusing on, what are the strengths and opportunities that can arise from that. And something you said there, which I would love to explore a little bit, is you wanted to be a woman or become a woman again. So I just wanted to understand a bit more about what that meant to you, being a woman.
Right. Well, let's talk about like what happened when I was at my postpartum depression. I literally listened to Coco Melon every day. All Melon, it was Barney, it was kid shows, and I didn't hang out with my friends or just like people around me and they're listening to regular music. I was, God, like I never heard this song before. I feel so old. I feel like I'm in the loop anymore. And my friends there was times where like they invited me to Vegas. I never got a Vegas trip with my friends, and it was like I wasn't included in a lot of things because I was a mom. And so as we kept going, like I'm home with the kids all the time. So I don't dress up anymore. I don't like put on makeup. I don't just look and feel like how I used to. So when I had my phase of like rebirthing myself, I tried to go back to who I thought I was in my younger years, like before right? My 21-year-old self, what does she look like? And I tried to look like her again. I dyed my hair red. I had like a short hair like this. I wore like big eyelashes, and I dressed super when I was, going through this phase during the separation. And then I was hanging out with my friends at that time. We were going to like music festivals. And then I was like, damn, I'm kind of old for this. Like, I think I kind of not what I want anymore. So I tried to go back to the past thinking that that was the right thing. But now I'm like, okay, so how can I balance the new me and like kind of, play with it so I can create this new person that I am today.
And what did you discover? So you went back to the past, that wasn't working for you. So what did you discover along that journey? What did you learn? What did you now have to experience?
Yeah, I love spirituality and self-care. That was the biggest thing for me, even though, so back then I loved music, I love partying, and I love like going to clubs, concerts, raves, whatever, because I was into my escapism, right? I was into my escaping the reality that I have because I was working so hard. I wanted to go play and party. But as I'm older now, I have all these responsibilities. I had kids. And when I went to go do that again, I felt like I grew out of it, like this, it was fun for a little bit, but I don't want to do this every single like week. I feel like my priorities changed now. What I enjoyed changed. So it's because I didn't really need to escape my life anymore. My husband during this journey, he taught me that I need to create a life that I don't need to escape from. And so when I was going through that, that past, reliving the past, I was just like, this is not what I want to do. What do I want to do? How do I want to live my life? So I created my daily routine where since I love to do spirituality stuff, I want to do yoga every day. I want to go meditate. I want to work on my business, play with the kids. I really created and I wrote down in my journal, like, how do I want to live my life? What does that look like? What does my daily tasks look like? How do I want to have fun? And so I really got specific with my new self and what my new self valued. And that really.
Now, I hope everyone's taking notes, because that is such a beautiful way to actually set up a routine, because you went deep. You've done a deep dive, and those questions are powerful questions that you asked yourself there in order to get to what would be the end result. So I'm curious then, what were some of your non-negotiables going back into the relationship now? And how did you come back together? How did you reconcile?
Oh, so we originally broke up because I felt like he was very controlling and I didn't know who I was, right? So now that I figured out, okay, this is who I wanted to be, this is how I wanted to live my life, this is what I want him to be like, or this is what I expected from him. And so that what changed was I wanted him to step up as like a I don't know how to describe it, but basically before I was doing all the housework, like
Yeah.
and taking kids and I was working. And I wanted him to step up and help me with the housework or something, you know, like either do the dishes, cook
Yeah.
food, whatever, you know, like I wanted everything to be kind of even now
Yeah.
instead of doing everything like all the womanly roles that we were expected to have.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do all those things. I wanted it to be more fair.
Yeah.
So now my husband he helps out so much more. I mean, like he cooks, he helps me do laundry sometimes. He plays with the kids more. So that really helped our relationship a lot. Another thing was I wanted him to take his career more seriously or find something that he was passionate about. So when we were in our relationship together, I felt like I was doing a lot of the work as mm, like entrepreneur. I was doing most of the work and I was doing a lot of the housework where my husband was just taking care of the kids mostly. So he also did not like that. Like he wanted to be the working person and he wanted me to stay home, but I didn't want to stay home either. So there was like a thing that we had to compromise on. And
Yeah.
so I did that, you know, I want him to find a business or something that he wanted to do so that way he can bring in income and he can feel empowered as a man, as a person. And I will, and then, you know, and then he was like, okay, so if I'm going to do this, I would like you to stay home with the kids more and, you know, do motherly things. You know, I don't know, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was an element of compromise because you've done a lot of
Yeah.
growth. And because you had that entrepreneurial mindset, often when we have that entrepreneurial mindset, we will also be seeking for our partner to have some sort of growth mindset. Now, they might not necessarily have their own business, but an element of personal growth can be very inspiring and very attractive when it comes to the relationship dynamic.
Yeah.
So really, was that enough? Is that all you had to say? Because I'm assuming that your husband did some work on himself during that time, or yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so after we got back together and we set the ground rules for each other and going forward, he ended up opening a buy sell trade vintage like clothing store slash like sneakers, like you know where they sell Jordans and stuff
Yeah.
like that. He ended up opening that, and I was very happy for him because that was something that he's always been interested in. So
Mm.
does e-commerce with shoes and he does like stock trading, crypto, all that stuff. So he found his element. He found what he liked to do, and
Yeah.
I'm happy for that. It really, when he became his person, it inspired me to become like a better mom. And like now that I know he's going to take care of some of the finances, I can step back and I can do what I want to do as a mom and a wife, and you know, take care of the household in a different way.
Yeah, so key because what I'm hearing there is the trust element that
Yeah.
you could leave him and you could trust him to do that. He's done his thing, he's opened up what he needs to open up, and that could be really encouraging because it means that he heard you. He didn't just listen, he actually heard, and he was willing to make that change for you. So thinking about that twin flame journey, then, at what stage have you encountered the chase with him?
During the 3 years that I was speaking about earlier. So when we separated, that was like the chase. So before you actually separate, there are going to be little tiny moments where you try to separate from each other, right?
Okay.
It's like you, like for example, when he would get upset with me, he would pack his bags and he would pretend that he's gonna leave, and then I was like, no, don't leave, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
and it would just be back and forth. And then finally, instead of it's him always trying to leave and I was chasing him, it was starting to be that I was trying to leave and he was going to chase me, you know, so that was the chase. And then finally at that last straw that we had, we ended up separating. And then after separation, the next stage is surrender. So that's when you accept the other person as they are. And then after that, it's called union. This is the last phase of twin flame. Union is when you can live together, be together in complete harmony and complete balance. And I definitely feel like that's where we are right now. We know each other so well. And there's like no one I'd rather be with than him in this lifetime. And I can say confidently after everything that we've gone through. We went through all that. Can I cuss on here? Yeah. We went through all that in the past. So if we can get through all of that, whatever life throws at us later, I know that we can handle it.
Oh gosh, what I'm glad to hear that there is an end stage. It is not a vicious cycle that you go around, round and round and round, that the unit stage is the end stage that we ultimately get to. So now what do you do to nurture the relationship even more so? Do you sit down weekly and say what's working, what's not working? How do you communicate with each other?
I think it's we have these moments in the car because we're both entrepreneurs now and we take care of the kids. So there's really rarely any time that we can have like date night or something because our kids are young. So in the car, we would have these moments when we're driving somewhere and we would talk to each other about like what are our goals. And so I think it's very important when you're in a relationship, any type of relationship in general, you need to have the same goals, the same like years of retirement, like, you know, the same ideas of like how you want to live. If you do not have the goals, that relationship will not work. So luckily my husband and I both agreed that, you know, we do eventually want to live in Cambodia, back in our homeland. We want to retire there. We want to do a lot of what's the English word for it? We want to give back to the community a lot, like do charity work when we get over there. And for money, we want to do our businesses and take it online and just do it that way, and not be stuck. That was the most important thing. Like both of us really felt stuck in our challenges the past few years. And so we just didn't want to be stuck anymore. We want to be free. We want to be flexible, fluid. Like we just want to do whatever we want. So that was perfect because we both aligned to that. We both said yes to that. And I think going forward now, like this year, we always talk about, I think, the end goal. Like we always dream about the end goal, dream about what we want together, like kind of manifest things together, you know, envision together. We would send each other like memes or tag each other in posts about the car that we would want to drive or the house that we want to live in. And usually it's the same thing. You know, the food we want, it's usually the same thing. So it always works out.
Oh, I love how you have come together in that union, because even if you are busy on the road, you're still having growth conversations. You're still talking about how things are going. You're finding time. And that's what's really important, is still finding that time with that person. Because although you might not have date nights, you're still finding a time to connect with each other. And also you've got that shared vision, which is so powerful when it comes to having a healthy relationship, shared goals. And a word that you used earlier as well was values. And I think you figured out, you worked out what you stood for, what was important to you in terms of your values when it comes to yourself. And having that shared value system with your partner is even more important. If your values are love, if it's trust, if it's honesty, if it's integrity, if it's being playful, and when you can share those values, it just really amplifies the connection even more so. So again, from this conversation, listen to what Mealyann is saying, because it sounds like something that is really working in your relationship.
I wanted to give another example. We have a cousin who had a long-term relationship with his girlfriend. I think like 2 years they've been together. And the relationship was fine, but they didn't have the same end goal, right? Like she wanted a nice house. She wanted the best of the best, big and bold. But my cousin, he just wanted a simple life. He was okay living in an RV and going around the world, but she was not okay with that. So that relationship, even though they've been together for 2 years, that's a long time, you know, together for a
Yeah.
long time, they fought a lot because they did not have the same vision. And now, I mean, he just told me that they broke up like a few weeks ago. So it makes a lot of sense of why, because they couldn't connect. They couldn't figure out what is
Yeah.
something that share together. So I think that's really important as a couple to figure out if your values and if your vision matches.
Oh, absolutely. That alignment is key, especially when it comes to lifestyle alignment too. Because I had a client, for example, who had more of a lavish expectation of a lifestyle, and she met somebody recently, and he just wanted to stay at home and watch movies and eat pasta. And it really just wasn't in alignment. She goes, even worse, she wanted cheese on the pasta. And I was like, oh, okay, she just totally wasn't into this guy. But that alignment is so key, that shared vision, and having that conversation at an early stage, because like that example you gave, 2 years to then figure out that really there's no alignment. Now we grow as people. So even if in that 2 years you are still having conversation with that
Mhm.
person about what is it looking like, has it changed? Has our vision changed? It's important too, because things happen, life happens. Like when we were talking about earlier, what might feel in alignment now, you might come off course and something changes. So it's still having that conversation regularly to say, are we still singing from the same hymn sheets, or have things changed a little bit? So that's such an important share. Now, talking about vision, I would
Mhm.
love to know, what is your personal definition of love? What does love mean to you, Mealyann?
Oh, I love that. I just want to be so simple with it. I think that the most important type of love is unconditional love. And so that for a relationship means that you accept the person as they are, flaws and all, no matter what.
Mm.
And there are times where, you see your partner and they do have these things about them that you wish they could change, or that you wish they would see. If you are able to love them so deeply and help them overcome, or help them realize that they need to change these things about themselves, and they feel the love they feel the love and support from you, and they're willing and going to change those things, that's how your relationship can get better and improve, with this unconditional love. If I put a condition on my husband um in the beginning, I actually, let's talk about this. Before I met my husband, the condition was, I was in college, I was 21. You have to have a job, you have to have a car, and you have to like go to school. Okay.
Yeah.
Those are basic, easy, like
Yeah.
easy. When I met my husband, he had a car, luckily, in Cambodia. But he did not have a job. I mean, he was playing basketball overseas. So technically it is a job, but technically it's not a job, because it wasn't like a lot of money coming in or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. And then he didn't go to school, right? College, I was in college, and for my family, that was very huge. But for him, he didn't go to school. And when I met him, there was like red flags everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I had to let go of these conditions that I had in my brain of like what I wanted in my significant other. And sometimes there are standards that you need to keep, right? If there are standards, and everybody is different, but there are standards that you put in place. And so when I met him and he didn't like fit all the boxes, I'm just like, what am I gonna do? Like, what
Yeah.
am I gonna do? Okay. So I ended up just, the relationship ended up working out anyways. Like, I love him whether he went to school or not, whether he has a car or not, whether he works or not. Like, we love each other regardless. And so I know there are things about me that he wishes he could have checked on the box,
Yeah.
but he was able to love me through it too. So I think that's really powerful.
That is incredibly powerful. I would absolutely agree there, because sometimes we can put up those blockages and those barriers to actually receiving love, because it's not packaged in the way that we wanted it to be. But then when you start to ask each other, well, why is that important? Or why is that important to me? And I love the 5 whys. Ask yourself why 5 times. Why? Okay, why? Okay, and then you really start to get to the root cause. And sometimes it's not even what you think it is. It's something that happened in the past that has triggered your value system and triggered your belief system about what love means for you as a person. So I love that definition of love and how you expanded on that. Mealyann, I have so enjoyed this conversation. We're going to bring this conversation to an end now. You shared so much here. I'm going to go back and I'm going to take notes as well, because it's been such a powerful share. So thank you so much for that.
Gosh, for having me. This was probably one of the most fun interviews I've ever had. You are such a great interviewer. I mean, the questions that you've thrown at me, they think literally like.
Oh, thank you so much. And I do appreciate that. I just like to go with the flow, really. Don't prep. And I just like to feed of what my guests say. And you shared so much that I was really curious and intrigued. And it has been such a fun interview. And what I would love is if you could leave our listeners with one key takeaway that would help them along their journey of love, life, and relationships.
Yeah, I think if you can get one thing out of this episode, the most important thing is to love yourself. You have to love yourself first in order for you to love anybody else. And that takes a lot of work, going inwards, digging deep with your emotions. Don't be scared of your emotions. Don't be scared of going inwards. I know it sounds very, very deep and scary to a lot of people, but once you're able to go inwards and heal those parts of you, and do your self-care, do your shadow work, take care of yourself, mind, body, spirit, finances, you're going to be able to connect to a beautiful you, and you're going to find peace in your daily life.
Oh, what a beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous takeaway there. And as you said, the emotions can be quite scary, but really they're just indicators, aren't they? They're just indicators of something to explore a bit more. Be curious, treat it like a science project or something. Like, oh, I have an opportunity now to actually explore it and to experience the growth from that. Love yourself. Oh, Mealyann, again, thank you so much. Now, I'm most certain that people are going to want to reach out to you or follow you. So please let us know how they can find you.
Yeah, oh, I hope so, because that'd be great. I would love to get to know your listeners.
Yeah.
My social media, so TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube are all at Milly Moonstone. That's Milly Moonstone. And you can visit my website. It's millymoonstone.square.site to book a reading with me. We can do energy healing sessions, fortune reading. We can do a whole bunch of different things together. You can also book a 15-minute free consultation with me. So that way we can explore all the things that you need, and we can dive a little bit deeper. So I'm really excited for everybody to reach out.
Absolutely. Bookmark that website, just like I have, so you don't lose it. Again, Mealyann, such a wonderful, amazing guest. My heart space has opened up fully. I feel so energized from talking to you. And again, for everybody else who has listened to this wonderful episode, I want to thank you for your time, for your attention and your energy. And until the next episode, take great care of yourself and others too.